The year is 1966. St. Louis pulses with music, and Walter Scott's golden voice cuts through smoky venue air like a knife through silk. He stands center stage, microphone in hand, his band Bob Cuban and the In-Men backing him as he belts out their signature hit. The crowd roars, women scream his name. The Cheater rockets to number 12 on the Billboard charts, selling over 1 million copies. Walter Scott possesses everything: fame, fortune, and more female attention than any man should handle. His bandmate Bob Cuban watches from the wings, knowing that voice could have conquered Vegas. But success in the music industry is a fickle mistress, and Walter Scott is about to learn that lesson in blood. 14 years pass like smoke. Walter's moment of glory becomes distant memory as he grinds through one-nighters across America's heartland. Club after club, motel after motel. The man who once commanded national attention now performs for handfuls of nostalgic fans clinging to the 60s. The road is lonely, and Walter fills that loneliness the only way he knows how. His first marriage to Doris crumbles under the weight of absence and infidelity. Enter Joanne Calcaterra, a woman he meets during his travels, beautiful and willing to overlook his wandering ways. Or so it seems. Walter's parents, Kay and Walter Sr., watch their son's second marriage with growing unease. Kay's maternal instincts scream warnings about Joanne that she cannot articulate. The woman feels false from day one, but Walter is smitten, exchanging one broken marriage for another potentially doomed union. By the early 1980s, Walter's life reads like a soap opera script. He juggles performances, a crumbling marriage to Joanne, and a steamy affair with backup dancer Suzanne Flynn. The irony cuts deep. The man who sang about cheaters has become the ultimate cheater himself. But Walter isn't the only player in this dangerous game. Joanne has found comfort in the arms of Jim Williams, a married electrician who came to fix her wiring and stayed to fix her loneliness. Jim, built like a prizefighter with hands that know both creation and destruction, becomes obsessed with the singer's wife. The affair burns hot and reckless. Jim's wife, Sharon, suspects nothing, even as her 20-year marriage disintegrates around her. The stage is set for tragedy that will shake St. Louis to its core. October 19th, 1983. A date that will haunt the Williams family forever. Sharon Williams climbs into her car for what should be a routine drive. Minutes later, emergency responders race to a crash scene that defies logic. The car sits at the bottom of an embankment, its front end barely dented, yet Sharon lies unconscious with massive head trauma. A grass fire burns mysteriously beside the vehicle. The driver's seat is pushed back too far for Sharon's petite frame. The door hangs open like a mouth screaming silent accusations. Strangest of all, Sharon's body reeks of gasoline despite no damage to the fuel line. At the hospital, doctors deliver devastating news to Jim Williams. His wife's skull is fractured beyond repair. The life support machine beeps steadily, a mechanical heartbeat for a woman who will never wake up. Jim makes the agonizing decision to let her go. No autopsy is performed. The case closes with a whisper rather than a bang. 2 months later, as St. Louis prepares for Christmas, Walter Scott returns home from his latest tour. Friends notice something different about him. A distraction, a worry that shadows his usually confident demeanor. Has he discovered Joanne's affair? Does he suspect the truth about Sharon Williams' death? December 27th, 1983. Walter tells Joanne he's going to buy a car battery. He never returns. The garage owner confirms Walter never arrived. His car turns up abandoned at the airport, but no flight manifests bear his name. Earth simply swallows him whole. Joanne calls police, playing the concerned wife to perfection. But Walter's parents aren't buying the performance. When they visit their son's house the next day, they find Jim Williams sitting at the kitchen table, methodically examining Walter's jewelry like a pawn shop owner appraising merchandise. 2 of Walter's guns rest on the table. The third, a .22 caliber pistol, is missing. Walter Scott has disappeared, but the world keeps spinning. Within 24 hours, Joanne cancels 9 weeks of his scheduled performances. 2 days later, she and Jim Williams drive to Pennsylvania together, ostensibly to collect Walter's belongings from the band's trailer. They share a motel room. The damage to their credibility is done. Months pass. The search for Walter grows cold. Desperate for answers, Kay Notheus consults a psychic who delivers a chilling prophecy. Walter lies in cold, cold water that doesn't move, with something big and red by the roadside. Kay's blood turns to ice as she remembers the red door on Jim Williams' house. 9 months after Walter's disappearance, Joanne files for divorce, citing abandonment and adultery. She marries Jim Williams shortly after, sealing their union with Walter's blood still on their hands. Enter Dr. Mary Case, a forensic pathologist with a reputation for seeing what others miss. When she reviews Sharon Williams' file, the official story crumbles like ancient parchment. The car accident was minimal, offering no explanation for the massive head trauma. Dr. Case orders Sharon's body exhumed. The corpse tells a story of violence that the accident report tried to bury. 2 brutal impacts to the back of Sharon's head, caused by a pipe or crowbar. This isn't an accident, it's murder. With Sharon's death reclassified as homicide, police refocus on Jim Williams and his connection to Walter Scott's disappearance. 3 years after Walter vanished, police interview Jim Williams' estranged son Jimmy in a Florida prison. The young man's words drip with sarcasm and barely concealed contempt for law enforcement. He taunts investigators about their inability to solve the case, then delivers information that will crack it wide open. He mentions winter conditions, frozen rivers, frozen lakes, frozen ground. Then he reveals the crucial detail. His father built a flower box over the cistern, covering what had been exposed his entire life. Police descend on 5,647 Gudermuth Road with search warrant and heavy hearts. The concrete cistern in Jim Williams' backyard sits innocently beneath its decorative flower box, a tomb disguised as a garden feature. When they remove the cover, the sight that greets them will haunt their dreams forever. Walter Scott floats in dark water, still wearing the jogging suit he had on the night he disappeared. Yellow rope binds his wrists, knees, and ankles. Concrete blocks anchor him to the bottom like grotesque fishing weights. A sealed plastic bag contains Walter's credit cards and driver's license, the final damning pieces of evidence. The autopsy reveals Walter died from a high-velocity gunshot wound to the back. The bullet shattered inside his body, creating what Dr. Case calls a snowstorm effect on the X-ray. Jim Williams proclaims his innocence with the confidence of a man who believes his own lies. He claims he would never shoot a man in the back, preferring a direct shot between the eyes rather than risking missing the heart. At trial, he spins a tale about seeing Walter with a mysterious man in a black coat and hat, getting into a black Cadillac. It sounds like something from a pulp detective novel. The jury doesn't buy it. Jim Williams receives life in prison without parole for 2 counts of capital murder. Joanne Williams cuts a deal that would make the devil himself jealous. In exchange for a guilty plea to hindering prosecution, the murder charges disappear like morning mist. 5 years in prison, a $5,000 fine. She serves 18 months. Kay Nothius watches from the courtroom gallery, her heart breaking with each word of the plea agreement. Justice remains elusive. Joanne would have been tried alongside Jim Williams if real justice existed. Walter Scott rests now in the Valhalla Mausoleum, his body finally above ground after 3 years underwater. Kay Nothius still listens to his records, finding comfort in the voice that once filled stadiums. Questions linger like ghosts in the darkness. Who really pulled the trigger that December night? Was it Joanne, the only person Walter would have trusted enough to get close? Or Jim Williams with his contradictory stories and violent hands? The truth died with Walter in that dark cistern. All that remains is the music and the eternal warning embedded in his greatest hit. In Walter Scott's case, the cheater's song became his swan song. The man who warned others about infidelity became its ultimate victim, destroyed by the very betrayal he had immortalized in melody. His golden voice, once capable of conquering Vegas, now whispers from beyond the grave, a haunting reminder that some performances end not with applause, but with silence that echoes forever in cold, dark water.